Hello, everyone. This is your host, Akil Jabbar, and welcome to another episode of SaaS District. On today's episode, we'll be talking about how to run more effective growth experiments in your startup. Today, we have our guest, Emilia Chagas, with us. Emilia is known in the community as an expert in online marketing, enterprise content management, content strategy, growth hacking, and entrepreneurship. She started her career as a content manager at a marketing agency, managing multiple projects for enterprises and SMBs. While working at the agency, she came up with the idea of creating an easy to use software that streamlines the content creation process. That software, known as ContenTools at the time, was launched in 2015 and has grown and improved to where it is today. Ever since then, Emilia has been a full-time serial entrepreneur, starting as the founder and CEO of ContenTools, which is now known as GrowthHackers Workflow, which is a productivity and intelligence platform for marketing teams. The software allows marketers to replace dreadful spreadsheets, endless email threads, and limited data. With Workflow, marketing teams can centralize their entire content marketing operation in a single location to easily plan, manage, collaborate, and publish across entire teams. Last year, ContenTools joined operations with GrowthHackers, a company originally founded by Sean Ellis, in order to offer a full stack of software for growth and marketing using AI at its core. Emilia is currently the CEO of GrowthHackers, which many of you may already know, an online community for the growth obsessed to connect and get inspired from other top marketers in the marketing industry. Welcome, Emilia. Nice to be chatting with you again, and glad to have you on our show today. Hopefully that was a good introduction. If you want to add anything.
Wow, it was. Definitely. Thank you so much. You're so kind, Akil.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, maybe before we get in, can you just share a bit about kind of your background and when it was it that you really kind of decided to really first become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people who say they were always entrepreneurs. They never worked for anyone else. And I actually admire these people a lot. That's not my case. I am a journalist. My background is in content creation, content productivity and processes. And I worked for many large corporations, companies, organizing the content creation process and doing everything that now our software does. I used to do it by hand using a lot of these dreadful spreadsheets you just described. And actually the will to start a solution for a problem that I found in my own industry, a problem that I had on my daily basis, and talking to others, other content managers, other people like myself, I saw everyone had the same problem. No one had a specific solution for it. And that actually was my first motivation. I searched for many types of solutions that were back then, and none would have all the capabilities that I wanted. And I thought, well, someone has to do this. Why not me? And from this question, I searched for serial entrepreneurs, people who had backgrounds different than my own, and found this amazing group of people in my hometown that were launching a series of startups. They were funding and launching startups from the beginning. And from these first ideas, I pitched them, and they said, well, it's certainly an interesting idea. It could become a business. Let's test around it. Let's see if the market's prepared for something like this. We did that along with other 6 startups we've launched all together. From these, from what I can recall, not only ourselves, but 4 of other moved forward, which is already a great number for a small batch of startups. Yeah. And the other 3 were already either acquired or got like larger. One of them was acquired by a very large company. It was a really interesting deal back in 2018. So yeah, ContenTools ultimately got together with GrowthHackers also in 2018, and we joined to solve even a larger problem that we noticed that growth hackers were solving for the ideation and the implementation process, something that marketing teams and content teams that use our platform also had. And we were solving for processes that were already happening. And with growth hackers tools, you could ideate and experiment, but once a project actually worked and you had to push this project and follow all the tests, that everything that was going on and needed to happen for the idea to come to life, that software was not offering that. So we joined forces, and now marketing teams, product teams can not only ideate with us, but also follow their project. And we don't want them to stop there, because we also noticed that for marketing, for products, the processes are not a plan, do, or plan, execute, and analyze only. It's actually a will. And from analyzing, they actually have to come back to ideation and do it all over again.
Right.
And this wheel right now with project management tools that have consulting standing point or a project point of view, where once I'm done with a task, it actually goes away. Mm-hmm. It's not enough for them. They need more than done. Done is actually the beginning for most of these teams. They have to go from done to what I learned from here and how can I move forward. And that's what we are bringing to the table for the market right now with Growth Hackers Insights, collecting all of the data, all of the information that they have for projects that are live, content that is already published, collecting all of the information they have, processing automatically with our algorithm, and giving back not the, well, this is done, this is the results, this is the reports, and all of the boring data that most marketers have to deal with every day. We actually give them, this is actually what happened and what you should do from here. So from done, we also get more insights and more actions to improve the strategy, improve the next level of our goals and our strategies. That's what we're bringing here.
Makes sense, yeah. And just kind of rewinding back to the beginning, I'm kind of curious. So when you had that problem that you were facing at a personal level through working, and you saw that inefficiency, to where you actually decided to launch and validate in the market, what did that kind of look like? Where was it just yourself and saying, hey, I'm going to go speak to a couple of people and say, hey, is this a real problem? Would you pay for this? Or did you go to a couple? I know you have some other co-founders. Did you try to build a team of founding members first? Or was it just that network and you said, hey, let's get together and build this because there is a demand? I'm kind of curious how that went from that step there.
Yeah, we actually had a few, the co-founders were already with me, but part-time. I was full-time in the business, testing the idea with the market. They were full-time helping me, mentoring. And actually when I needed that products to come alive, we tested with some MVPs first, so minimum viable products. I did a lot of repetitive processes that could be plugged with different free tools. We did a lot of things to test and to see and check if a software was needed, right? It's not, I love that sentence. I think it's from that quote from Eric Ries. It's not about, could this be done, but should this be done, right? Like, is there a need for this? And that was the question actually nagging me all the time. Like, I know it's my problem. I know it's a problem for a lot of people in my industry, but it's a real business problem. Is it something that people can actually or need to improve their work lives, to improve the productivity of their teams, to actually see some ROI out of it, right? So if a business invests in a software, they want to see the return over this investment, that's for sure. And that was actually what we were testing in the beginning. So I was definitely going after many companies and offering a solution and actually listening a lot, like trying to learn the problem from their point of view. And I remember I once went to this, that was actually one of the best memories in terms of customer validation, customer development that I have. We were in 500 startups. We had this MVP going on. It was working well and wanted to launch globally. It was back in 2015 when we actually launched the software. And I went to this beauty company, like a great brand, very well known. And the content manager was an engineer, and that's actually a great trend. A lot of marketers are actually have an engineering background, development background, and that's for sure something that it came to change the market. It's not only creatives that are interested and can bring a lot of value to the table in marketing, but also engineers and developers. And she was an engineer, and she was telling me about her content creation process and how it went. And I was just there listening to her. I was actually just listening. Mm-hmm. And by the end, I hadn't even offered the MVP that we had back then or any solution to that point. But after she described all the process for her to approve ideas, brainstorm ideas with her team, approve ideas, create content, publish them online, distribute them, and then analyze and come up with the results. By the end, she was tired. I mean, she took a deep breath and said, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm an engineer. How is this happening? I mean, how am I leading this type of process right now? Really?"
Right.
And then I had the perfect opportunity to pitch her ContenTools that is now GrowthHackers Workflow. Listen, a lot of things that you're doing, like manually with different tools, actually, this should be centralized, and your team shouldn't be doing and redoing all of these minor tasks. They should be as worried with the strategy as you are, as worried with the results analysis as you are. Like, let's save 80% of this, right? And that actually became a reality, not only for them, but for other thousands of teams that use our software today. We have great results like companies like HubSpot, and you think, well, HubSpot is such a huge company in terms of content creation. They have an amazing content strategy. They are market leaders and they inspire a lot of people. Certainly their content creation process is all solved for. Actually, we found out that they could actually use a lot of help. And within 1 month using our software, they had speed up 60% of the process for reviewing and analyzing content. So this is the type of things that we discovered afterwards when the software was already there, already in the market.
Yeah, I imagine she was sold after that conversation. Just that,
definitely.
Yeah, it's funny how engineers seem to be kind of moving, myself included. So I'm an engineer originally. I think it's just the mentality of that optimization and continuous improvement, and then building out processes that kind of translate over to marketing really well.
Yes, exactly. The wheel that I was talking about. I mean, the never-ending process. I think engineers can look at that and improve so much.
Exactly. That's all we look at. Yeah. So I believe you said you have is it 3 co-founders or 4, including yourself, on the team. That's a kind of a challenge that I find. Normally I usually see a biz dev and more of like a technical. There's usually 2 kind of co-founders. How do you guys were able to balance and navigate the decision making with 3 different people? And how are you guys continuously able to maintain that success and growth over time, and that relationship and trust and fairness with 4 people? It's interesting.
Yeah, we're definitely very tight, and we occupy different positions in the business. We have areas of expertise of our own. So market-wise, I take that I have the background that I have a deep connection with our ideal customer profile. This is my thing. And we have our tech co-founder is Elton, and he has a background of developing many startups and products and softwares in the past. We have someone, Pedro, has a background in sales, and he leads the sales team. He develops the acquisition strategies. He's actually now the growth leader for the company.
Cool.
And William, he is the operations. He has the background in finance and operation, and he's right now leading the customer success team. We understood that developing a very CRO type of process for the customer success team, we could have a great success not only for our own but also for our customers. And William is doing that. So we definitely have our own different stages to shine, and I think that creates a lot of balance in the relationship. We have weekly meetings, and we have a lot of interactions where one thing that I like to do with them as co-founders, and I also incentivize a lot of entrepreneurs that I know to do the same, is to develop a friendship with your co-founders too. I care about these people, and we get together sometimes when we need to have like important, difficult meetings. I like to do that in like pleasant scenarios. So we go out and we go to the pool, or we go to a restaurant by the beach to have tough conversations, because I want this to be, I want these conversations to be also pleasant, and for us to look back to them and see how we grew, how we evolved with them. So that's something of my concern. I know that I could have the same meetings, the same conversations in a business environment or like in our office, but I think these like tiny details also bring a lot to the table when we are making a decision or thinking back of the people we care most and such. So yeah, definitely when we have decisions to make in regards of products, on how the product team is conducted, and the processes for products, or if this feature will be deployed today or in a week, Elton would have a voice that the other three of us, we know that should be is respected. And the same goes for the growth side of the company and the retention side of the company and the interactions with the market. So we definitely have a lot of balls in the air, like every startup has, but the four of us, we know which one to catch and who catch the others, Right. So none will fall to the ground.
So you guys have you've matched out like, maybe almost perfect complementary skill sets where you guys are just kind of able to run kind of independently and grow kind of without depending on each other. And I really like that tip you shared about, like when you're having difficult conversations, getting people into a comfortable environment. I think that's something I'm actually going to try and I think I recommend other people to try. Take them to a restaurant, take them to the pool, have a drink, and then
harder right now.
Yeah,
with everything going on.
Yeah, virtual, drinks. I don't know, but and then.
But even if we can use like silly filters on your camera, definitely go for it and try to make things like lighter. Like sometimes we have. I mean, our daily routines are so intense and so much happens every day, every week. It's easy to just push and disregard completely the emotions around you, right? Like people right now are more sensitive, they're more emotional. So take this into and use this. I mean, that's what I think. Like you can use this in your favor and for the benefit and the growth of your company.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. And in terms of the growth side, what have you guys found, personally for your, either ContenTools or GrowthHackers workflow software, to be like the most effective channels that you found to be successful? Or also on the other side, what has been least effective? What have been some failures you could share on the marketing side?
Well, we definitely tested around after we decided from our own data, from the customers that were having more success with us, we moved completely like mid-size and up. In the early days, in the beginning, we were serving any marketing team, any team that needed software like ours, we were serving them. I think that's common for many startups. But once we noticed that the companies that were actually seeing us like a painkiller instead of a vitamin, where the larger teams, the more complex teams, the enterprises and mid-sized companies, larger size companies, we decided to only target those. So that was a decision that we had, like, and we considered many enterprise sales approaches. One of them, of course, a lot of companies have boots on the ground. We considered that, we tested that. That did not work for us. So one thing that we understood is that for our target, our ideal customer profile, even if they are working in larger companies, they are purchasing and making decisions online, like mostly, especially for technology, for MarTech. For us, having, like, of course, having offline interactions, having our own conference once a year is super important for that, for like bonding and connecting with customers and potential customers. But we don't have right now a team like knocking on doors. We actually have everything online, all of the qualification process for leads, the acquisition strategies, everything is online. One other thing that it took a long while for us to actually test and discover was paid channels.
Okay.
There's an airplane going by, so maybe you hear something.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's actually rare right now. So
yeah, no one's traveling now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, paid channels is something that we grew a lot with our own content strategy, having either ContenTools had a strong content strategy, starting off with partnerships with companies like HubSpot and other companies in our market. We got together to develop tools, free tools, and also a lot of ebooks and webinars and something like that brought us leads. And with these leads, we were able to learn a lot and to offer the solution for them and have our first hundreds of customers. And after that, we felt the need to start testing with paid channels. And for paid channels, one that we thought would work a lot but didn't, or probably AdWords. We were actually competing for a very high price with not only with competitors, which would be expected, but also with partners and companies that had nothing to do with our solution. The words are so mixed up, and people sometimes looking for like event platforms. They were also searching for our keywords. I mean, it was definitely, it was a great learning. But other solutions more targeted for where you can like actually dig in deeper, like LinkedIn and others were definitely looking better and working better. But definitely organic is still one of our first channels, and is the channel that brings the most of premium accounts, trial accounts. And right now what we have in place is a PQL, product-led growth strategy, and we qualified the leads. So the PQL is the product qualified leads, comes to the inside sales team, and the sales team helps these leads develop, these users and teams develop on the software. They learn more about the software. And they take their first wins with the software, and then they decide to move forward and to actually implement company-wide. And that's how we're doing in the moment.
Cool. So a lot of content marketing. You've tried some paid advertising, webinars, giving free trials, free tools, integrations, and partnerships seems to have worked. You guys tried some pay-per-click, and then also outbound, which surprisingly, I know you guys had a pretty good system there, but just didn't convert as well as you hoped. Now, if you're kind of a brand new startup and you're maybe limited on terms of your resources, and you're kind of maybe tackling the same thing, or if you guys were to do it again, where would you say to focus your energy, or where would you recommend to start at least deploying and testing first some channels?
Yeah, I'll definitely start off with the product-led growth strategy. We developed that later on. We first had that traditional talk to us, and then receive a free tour for the software approach. And now the free tour is done like automatically with the platform. That improves the experience for the users a lot. So I would kick off with that definitely, and I would research and do the outbound, but very targeted, very targeted, like with mostly like an ABM strategy. If I were like starting, we kind of do that already, but we bring people mostly for like the funnel, like top funnel, and then we educate and help them through all the process. Being a niche too, I think that's also something that it's different for us for that. If you have a niche solution, like if you have like a broader solution, it really depends on the market and how you solve for a problem. But definitely, I would not start with directly with paid channels. Like that's something we did not do in the past, and I don't think I would do it if it were today for a simple reason. I think that also disguise your learnings in terms of who your customer is and the ability to actually accelerate growth and be in charge and have actually a reliable idea of your customer acquisition costs. That's something in the size of the market. I mean, so many discoveries that if you do these discoveries, like stepping on a large budget for paid channels, you never know. I mean, you never know if your business would be able to walk on their own
Sure.
when they are not. And in a time like this, I think it's important to actually have this idea for a product market fit early on and be certain that your solution is actually solving for your customer on the long term and not on the short term, not because they saw your ad somewhere and decided to try and maybe they'll quit in 6 months. So in the early days, I think paid channels can actually create guides instead of true learning.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good learning. Now, another strategy of growth is growth through acquisition. I know it's not something people think of right away. Just obviously, it's a lot more expensive and maybe not the first thing you think about. ContenTools was I think acquired and partnered with GrowthHackers. What was your kind of decision making framework at the time to decide whether how is this a good investment that we should move forward with this as a growth strategy versus investing in what's been working or testing out other strategies? I'm curious how that framework.
Definitely the letter that I mentioned for the top funnel and how we saw that organic was working so well for us and how complementary these solutions were. I mean, these 3 points were what we could think that would definitely make a difference for the business. At the same time, such an early partnership like ourselves, both for us and GrowthHackers, becoming one company in such an early stage of the business is truly a risk. I understand that, definitely. And for us, the factor that made us think that we are minimizing this risk a lot was how well we knew Sean, the founder of GrowthHackers, and he knew us. And not only the businesses were complementing each other, the software, the vision. And one thing that actually early on drew us closer was the roadmap for the software. So we had such a similar roadmap. We're developing and we facing the software today and joining the solutions in one as we're doing today, we can see we could, if we had partnered earlier, we would have saved a few hundred lines of code and and definitely moving forward, we'll do just that. We can solve for many more teams with the same resources that we're investing right now. So it's a matter of not only adding the expertise, the softwares and the audiences, but also dividing the effort to do so.
Interesting. Makes sense. And then I understand that you went through some kind of acceleration program. I know you also mentioned 500 or 500 startups at some point during your startup. How valuable would you say was that program in the success of where it is today? And what key takeaways did you get from that program that you could say that you actually applied to ContenTools? And then, if you do recommend it to other founders to go down that route as well.
Well, I think it really depends on the stage of your development, stage of your company. We were very like pre-seed. We had a successful MVP. We had the dream of launching a global solution or a solution in a global scale. We definitely need the expertise from mentors that had gone through that same route, and we found that with 500. I think if you have this opportunity to learn from others, to accelerate your own growth as an entrepreneur. I'm a first-time founder, and I think that definitely changed how things are done for a company. Not only like simple development processes, sales or growth strategies that we've implemented early on, or some things that we even decided not to implement early on and save for later. Those types of like decisions that serious entrepreneurs make because they've been through it, they've suffered through bad decisions in other companies. I was actually a sponge there. I was learning so much. I was experiencing with my business what others had with tens of others. So not only that, I think like at risk of being like too sentimental, but sure. I think the network that you create during an acceleration process is also very important. We have founders that have gone through 500 with us. We are in touch to this day. We help each other. If someone is, going through like a round of funding, I need an intro, or I actually need to connect with this customer that you have. Let's work together. These types of of things that the more people you know, the more prosperity I think you can bring to your business.
Right. So you have obviously the access to all these mentors and advisors and consultants who give you kind of maybe lead you in the right direction. And one thing they seems like is they don't just tell you what you should be focusing on, but it's more about like what you talked about earlier is like what to say no to, which I think is actually probably more important than taking on every single opportunity that comes our way. What would you have say you've done differently if you were starting ContenTools or the workflow software today? What would you have said you've done differently or have said no to early on based on kind of your lessons, other than some of the stuff you mentioned already, whether it's through a team, whether it's through product?
I'm not sure. That's a difficult question because really what we decide to early on or what we do or don't do actually bring us where we are today. And I really think where we are is a great place to be. So I don't think I would have done things differently. Maybe some things that we've done in the past could have been done, earlier perhaps. We've raised a pre-seed round, like we call it an angel round with 500, and then a seed round in 2018. Okay. I really think that gave us time enough to learn a lot with our business and to make decisions that we wouldn't if we had raised either more money or in a short period of time. I think we would have moved with the early strategy that was like selling for everyone. We would have like a very inflated business for people who wouldn't be like the best targets or wouldn't be like enjoying the software as they do today. So I think some decisions that you take and sometimes you think, oh, is this the right one? How will that impact the business after a few months or years? If you actually have the sustainable growth in mind, and not a simple like short-term milestone. I need to get to this MRR to raise around.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you're actually thinking long-term. The ability for you to actually get there and get there with a better business is, I mean, it's much more likely that you will if you have the mindset for sustainable growth in your business and within all of your team, and especially the founders.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. More looking at it from a long-term perspective than versus making short-term decisions. I think that's very easy as a startup founder. Any entrepreneur is just really looking at the short term. But yeah, if you're lucky and you have that kind of capability to stay disciplined and think long-term, I think that's huge. Growth Hackers community. Curious from your perspective. I believe Sean coined that term. What does growth hacking mean to you? Like, is it mentality? Is it
Yeah, for me, it's more like a process in itself. It's a methodology for how you do things
Mm-hmm.
in terms of growth, how you run experiments, how you organize your company around growth. For me, it's mostly that, and that comes from Sean's experience, from his work with amazing companies like Dropbox, Eventbrite, and so many others, where he actually had to start from zero, from scratch, and build these processes himself with his team and learn, and also everything that goes around that, and the ability that he had to experiment and to expand the company's growth, not only in the regular marketing way of looking to top funnel and then conversion, but also going beyond that and thinking about how the product drives growth. How, if I improve the experience for my users, how can I drive more referrals, and how can I create this cycle of fast growth with high tempo testing? So basically, the process in itself for growth for me is what growth hacking is. I know that the term is a little bit deteriorated, especially for the hacking part. People take growth hacking and think of things that I can do that are like fast, and I will like launch this viral strategy and things will like the silver bullet, like with growth hacking. That's definitely not the way we want you to think.
Sure.
We want you to think like sustainable growth, and how can I help these number of potential customers find your product faster, or extract value from your product faster, or stay with your product longer by testing around your channels, testing around your own processes and your product as well. We have many companies using our methodology, using our software, and they are not even software companies, are product-oriented companies. Many of them are like companies in the food and beverage space, or the government of Australia, one of their agencies uses growth hacking to experiment before they launch a new project. So this, as you mentioned, a mentality, right? It can be a mentality, but it is a mentality put in practice. It's actually what I can do with this mentality that growth hacking is about.
Mm. And as another SaaS founder is looking to get into this, what are some resources or tools that you usually recommend to them who want to start, growth hacking their startup in the way that we know it?
I think the first one would be to actually dig deeper into the data that you already have, how your users are actually using your product. And you may find, many companies find that they are not using as they imagine, or they could be extracting more value from, features that you take a long time developing and then just a few customers use, or a portion of your customers use, and how to actually create this and improve the usage of what you already have prior to launching new things. So I think the need for growth hacking in software companies is actually to either avoid or stop with the product death cycle. The product death cycle is simply launching and you think a lot of people will come. Many times they do, and then you flatten your growth rate or your growth curve, and then you think, okay, if I launch this other feature, if I launch to this other audience, if I do this and this and this, and then you grow with peaks of search or peaks of users coming. And if you stop doing that, your product will actually be, done, right? So it's actually creating that, I will use a word that is not the best word, but it's like almost like an addictive sense of why customers need to actually use that and create a habit. I think habit's the best word for this, like a better word. But you can create a habit for users with your products, and how you do that. What tiny improvements, and many of these improvements many times don't even need coding. In many cases, you don't need to code your user way into your product. You can use simple tour solutions, or sometimes even email flows. And many growth teams find out that they will actually need, in the beginning at least, a lot less coding than they expect. And improvements sometimes in UX will do that for them. So yeah, definitely using your data, understanding your user behavior, and then coming up with ideas to improve this usage of your product, testing these ideas, analyzing this test, and only launching some change product-wise or for the entire company, for the entire product, once you actually have the proof that that works. That's what growth hacking is all about, and doing that over and over and over again. So that's actually where the need for our product comes. From the amount of tests I'm running at the same time in different areas of the product, or in different levers of growth, from acquisition to activation to, revenue or referral, and so on. And I do so many tests at the same time that I need to keep track of everything. And if I can keep track with a software that actually pulls it automatically, tells me if that works or didn't automatically, even better, and I can learn faster. And let's be honest, the SaaS business, the software business is all about who learns faster from their own user base, right?
That's right.
These are the winners right now.
So it's that continuous development kind of mentality, right? So it's the same thing. You're just applying it to your marketing strategy and your growth, and not being able to settle or being happy with, the status quo of what you build something, and just keep, having that mentality to keep having to improve, right? It seems like that's what you guys have done. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's the same. You live what you breathe, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I also noticed you guys have your GrowthHackers conference. I believe it was postponed to September 1st now, obviously with travel restrictions and whatnot. For people of those who are looking to attend, what can they expect at this conference, and who do you recommend should be attending this kind of conference?
Definitely, yeah. We have a group of different growth professionals attending, from product managers to a lot of growth analysts, and to the chief growth officers and chief product officers, VPs of growth. So there are different takes that you can have from the conference. What the talks have in common from companies from the B2B space, software space, B2C, commerce, media, all kinds of industries, we bring them to the stage if they have a proven growth approach that is unique, that is creative, that is something that we can learn from as well. All of them will be very candid in opening their learnings on stage. Not only what worked, but especially what did not work.
Exactly.
And I think that's where it gets richer, for all the growth professionals there. It's how you can save a lot of time, either by having, and what we see from past conferences, that people actually open their notebooks, they're actually having tons of ideas they want to implement, like that other company. And sometimes there are companies that are not even in your space, or they're not, you're a B2B software, they are like a mobile app, but they had some so many like great tests that they ran, and you want to run similar ones. So I think that's mostly it's like getting like one day, full day of talk. So the next day you can, I would say, come to the office, but actually going to your home office or stay in your home office and actually implementing all of these ideas.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine like if people running a workflow or experiment, 90% of it is probably failed experiments. And then, what we normally see is the people who take that 75?
Yeah.
Oh, 75. Okay.
75%. Yeah.
Oh,
75% that from the most successful growth teams. Okay.
Yeah.
75% for them do not work. But you know what? This is not a failure example. This is actually a success, because if you're running a test, the test does not work. That means you're not spending in deploying a project that would be about to fail, right? So you're actually saving a lot of resources and time from your team, and sometimes even budget with that. So having 75% of your experiments not working is completely normal, and actually is the rate for successful growth.
Interesting. I didn't know that was the amount. I imagine though most people what they do is they start sharing that 25% of like, hey, this is what we did and this is our results. But I actually think that's interesting.
Totally. If you're starting off as a growth manager in a company that did not have any growth before, like any growth team, anything related to growth before, you'll definitely be very vocal about the 25%.
Sure, yeah.
You need to be. You need to be.
Exactly. That's what gets you the promotion, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Emilia. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they get in touch with you, and how can they learn more about GrowthHackers as well?
Definitely, yeah. If you go to growthhackers.com, we have like a full community sharing what they know best about growth and how their companies are growing. Right now, we even have this COVID-19 hashtag there, where companies are sharing how they're growing right now, like how they're going for growth right now. So we have incredible resource there. My email is emilia@growthhackers.com. I always reply, so feel free to hit me on my email if you want to chat more and to learn more about growth, about content, growth hacking, or anything related. And definitely the Growth Hackers Conference is a great place to start off. We have the Growth Hackers University, Sean's certification for future growth masters is also there, available if you want actually, if you don't mind, we can share with your audience discount coupon or a code for them to access the Growth Master certification. That's definitely,
that'd be awesome.
We can have them logging in, and learning for free and learning how to become better at growth.
Okay, I appreciate that. We'll add that to the show notes. We'll also add all your contact information. Okay, thank you. This was great, Emilia. As usual, nice chatting with you. And thank you so much for this.
Likewise.
All right, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening in to today's episode. Don't forget to join us for another episode where we interview top leaders and experts in the business and SaaS industry. If you enjoyed this episode, I ask that you please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. That would be really, really appreciated. Otherwise, if you have any feedback, suggestions, or improvements for this podcast, please feel free to send it directly to me on our website at horizoncapital.com. Or you can just tweet me at Akil Jabbar. Thanks again, and hope to see you guys on the next episode.